Hello children, in this video we will be doing clauses in English grammar. So children, a clause is a part of a sentence which is also a group of words. But unlike a phrase, it has a subject and a predicate. For example, they went there and met the president. So, in this sentence, we have a subject and a predicate. So, children, in clauses, a sentence may have one main or principal clause. So, that means we have main clause and subordinate clause. So, one sentence can have one main clause. Main clause is also called as principal clause. It can also have two or more than two main clauses if the sentence is very long, and it can also have the coordinators. One main clause and one or more subordinate clause. That means one sentence can have one main clause and more than one subordinate clause. So children, coordinators are conjunctions. Okay? Coordinators are the conjunctions which are with the main clause, and subordinators are the conjunctions or joining words with the dependent or subordinate clause. Now let's see what is a subordinate or a dependent clause. So, subordinate clause is also called as a dependent clause. So children, subordinate clause depends on the main clause. That means when a whole sentence is written, or if you are reading a whole sentence, the part of the sentence that needs the other part of the sentence is called as the subordinate or dependent clause. So it begins with a subordinator. As I told you all, subordinator is a conjunction. Like, it can begin with WH questions like what, when, okay, and even how, although, as if, after, till, though, than, because, before, if, that, even though, even if, since, so that, so. In between there will be some sentence, a part of sentence, and that, unless, and until. So these are all the subordinating conjunctions, okay, which might be at the beginning of the sentence or it may be somewhere in the middle of the sentence. So always a subordinate or a dependent clause, always starts or is introduced with a subordinator. So it can be any of these. Let's understand how to, identify the main clause and the subordinate clause. For example, I think that he is crazy. So children, in this sentence, when you read it, you can see how can you divide this sentence. You can divide it by reading the sentence very carefully. So when you read, okay, after reading, you can see I think. There's a pause after I think. So I think is the first half. That he is crazy is the second part. Now we need to see which one is the main clause and which one is the subordinate clause. So in order to find it, you need to see which part of the sentence can stand on its own and which part depends on the other part. So first one, that is I think. It's a complete sentence. Okay. So that is why I think becomes the main clause. It is not dependent on anything. The rest of the sentence, that is, that he is crazy, is the subordinate clause. Why? Because when you read only this part, that is, that he is crazy, it doesn't make any sense. It is incomplete. That is why it is depending on the other part of the sentence, that is, I think. So, you can see that the subordinate clause is beginning with a subordinator, that is a conjunction. So children, what is the conjunction here? The subordinating conjunction here is that. Okay, let's see the second example. Although she tried, she could not succeed. Now here there's something different in this sentence. Let's divide the sentence first. We can divide it as although she tried. Okay, and the next part becomes she could not succeed. Now in this we need to find out which one is the main clause. So in this, when you read it, you need to see which one can stand on its own. Although she tried. So after reading this, you feel that it is incomplete. Let's read the other part. She could not succeed. So she could not succeed is complete. Okay, it makes sense and it stands on its own. So that is why she could not succeed becomes the main clause. And although she tried becomes the subordinate or dependent clause. So children, you can see again that the subordinate clause is introduced or is starting with a subordinating conjunction. It is although. Although is a subordinating conjunction. Let's see the third sentence. I first met her in Bangalore when I lived as a small child. So in this sentence, we need to divide this. So the first part is I first met her in Bangalore. Okay, so this becomes the first part. And the second part is where I lived as a small child. So now we need to see which one is the main and which one is the subordinate clause. So when we read the first part, I first met her in Bangalore. Okay, so after reading this, we can think that it can stand on its own. That means this part of the sentence is independent. It does not require any other part. So that is why the first part becomes the main clause, whereas the second part, that is where I lived as a small child, becomes the subordinate clause. And you can even see that it begins with a subordinating conjunction. What is it, children? It is where. It is beginning or it is being introduced with the subordinating conjunction where. Where I lived as a small child. Okay, children? Now, clauses are of three types: noun clause, adverb clause, and adjective clause. Let's see and learn what is a noun clause. So children, the noun clause does the work of a noun. You all know what a noun does, right? It answers the question what. Okay, so anytime when you are trying to search what type of a clause it is, try to ask a question what, okay, in whatever sentence you are trying to find out. Let's see some of the steps so as to how to find out if the sentence, that is a subordinate clause, is a noun clause or no. The first one is subject of a verb. Okay, so in this sentence, whenever we have to see if there is something that is a subject of the verb. Let's see the sentence. What route we take is our choice. So in this, we have the first part, that is what. You can see what is a subordinating conjunction. So what route we take, okay, that part is the subject and is the verb. So children, if you are looking at this sentence, you can see that the subject, what route we take, is qualifying or is telling something about the verb, okay, is our choice. So this is the way you can find out if we have the sentence is a noun clause or no. Second, object of a verb. So in this, we need to see if the subordinating clause is having the object of a verb or no. For example, I know where he lives. In this sentence, we have I as a subject. So we have not to do anything with it because we are searching for the object. So in this sentence, we have where he lives as the object, okay, and know is the verb. So here children, you can see that object is directly connected to the verb. I know, okay, I is a subject. I know where he lives. So where he lives is connected, okay, is connected to the verb know, okay. So that is why this clause, noun clause, is object of a verb, okay. Next one, third one, complement of a verb. Now children, what is a complement? It can be either a direct object or an indirect object. Let's see the example. My information is that he lives there. Now in this sentence, what is a verb? Verb is. Is the verb in this sentence. And the complement, that is the direct object of is or of this sentence, is that he lives there. Okay, so this direct object is directly connected to the verb is. That is why this clause is the complement of a verb. It is an indirect object of the verb. Fourth one, object of a preposition. Now in this, what we need to see is that we need to see if it is directly connected to the object of a preposition. Let's see the sentence. Pay attention to what he says. Now, by just reading the sentence, you might have understood to is the preposition. Okay, children. So, just beside that, we have what he says. So, in this sentence, what he says is the object. So, because to, okay, pay attention to, okay. So, to is directly connected to the object in the sentence. So, that is why it becomes the object of the preposition. So you need to find out in the subordinating clause if the preposition is directly connected to the object of the sentence. Fifth one, object of an infinitive. So you all know what is an infinitive. We have learnt it. It is to plus the verb. Let's see this sentence. Jim wants to know where his friends were. So children, in this sentence, we have to know as the infinitive and where his friends were is the object of the sentence. So that is why this infinitive is directly connecting or qualifying the object. That means Jim wants, what he wants, to know where his friends were. Sixth one is in opposition of a noun or a pronoun. So in this, what is the meaning of opposition? It means in the same sentence, two different things are used to know about the same thing. For example, the news that he won has made us happy. Okay, so the news is the noun. Okay, and that he won is the opposition. So what you mean by this, children? It means that the news, it is only one news. Okay, but while reading we feel that something, the news is about something else, but it is one news only. The news that he won has made us happy. So here you can see it is the opposition of a noun. That is, that he won is the opposition of the same thing, that is the news. So the news that he won has made us happy. The seventh one, which is the last one, is object of a participle. So let's see the sentence. Learning that he was ill, I went to the hospital to visit him. So children, in this sentence, you can see learning is the participle and that he was ill is the object. So this object is directly connected to the participle learning. So this type of a noun is the subordinate clause, noun clause of object of a participle. That means that he was ill is the object of the participle. It is directly connected to the participle, that is learning. So now let's learn about adverb clause. So adverb clause, is something which describes or talks more about the verb. So let's see how and what are the different rules to find out if the subordinate clause is an adverb clause or no. First one, adverb clause of time. So this you have already learned in the types of adverbs in your previous classes. So adverb of time is something which talks about time, okay, when it happened. So mostly adverb clause of time is introduced by the subordinating conjunctions like when, while, before, after, since, as, whenever, as long as, till, and until. So these are all the subordinating conjunctions that will, make you understand that this is the adverb clause and it is the adverb clause of time. For example, they met while we were in class. So you can see they met is the main clause and while we were in class is the subordinate clause. So while is the subordinating conjunction. So while depicts or denotes that it is talking about time. It is telling us about time. That is adverb clause of time. Next is adverb clause of place. So this is introduced by the subordinating conjunctions like where, wherever, etc. For example, he lives where it rains lot. So this is very simple. Where is telling you about the place, okay, where it rains. Next one is adverb clause of reason. It shows why an action takes place, and it is introduced by subordinating conjunctions like because, as, since, that, etc. For example, he was sad because he missed the show. Now in this, because is giving out reason. Why was he sad? Because he missed the show. Next is adverb clause of comparison. It shows comparison between people or things, and it is introduced by conjunctions like then, no, less than, as. In between there will be a part of sentence and as. For example, he is smarter than he looks. So here you can see it is compared, okay, the looks and him being smarter. Okay, so he is smarter with the subordinating conjunction than he looks. Okay, the way he looks doesn't show that he is that smarter. Next is adverb clause of purpose. It is used when a purpose of an action is described, and it is introduced by the subordinating conjunctions like so, that, in order that. For example, she tried her best that she might get in. So this is a purpose. Okay, what is the purpose of doing any action? So she tried her best. Why did she try her best? So that she might get in. Okay, so that is the subordinating conjunction, and it shows the purpose. Next is adverb clause of result. It tells the result or the consequence of something, and it is introduced with conjunctions like so that, such that, etc. For example, eat your food quickly so that you can go to sleep. So here you can see do one action so that you can get the result. So that is the subordinating conjunction used to get the result. Next is adverb of concession. It is introduced with subordinating conjunctions like although, though, even if, however, whether, etc. For example, although he worked hard, his project was not selected. So here you can see that somebody has worked hard, but yet he couldn't succeed. So here you can see although is the subordinating conjunction that is used. Next one is adverb clause of manner. It is introduced by subordinating conjunctions like as if, as though, how, in the way that, etc. For example, do as I tell you. So here you can see it is depicting manner. So as is the subordinating conjunction used. Next, adverb clause of extent. It tells to what extent an action is done, and it is introduced by subordinating conjunctions like as in between part of sentence, as, the, as, etc. For example, they tried as much as they could. So here you can see extent, how much you can do. So someone tried as much as possible. So here you can see to as is used as the subordinating conjunction. Next is the adjective clause. An adjective clause describes a noun or a pronoun. It usually answers the question which. So whenever you want to search or find out if your sentence is an adjective clause, that is a subordinate clause, then try to ask the question which. It is usually introduced by the words like who, whose, whom, which, that, etc. For example, the boy who is wearing a white shirt is my brother. So in the above sentence, it answers to the question which boy. Okay, so someone is pointing out to some description of the shirt, telling that he is his brother. So the boy who is wearing a white shirt is my brother. So who is wearing a white shirt? It is the brother. Which boy? So it is describing. Next example, this is library that belongs to my uncle. So in this sentence as well, that belongs to my uncle is the subordinating adjective clause, because a library is being described that belongs to someone's uncle. So now we have completed with the explanation. Let's see and find out the clause and state its kind. So the first sentence is, the postman wanted to deliver what he thought was a gift. So first we need to divide into main and the subordinate clause and then find out if it is a noun, adverb or a adjective clause. So the main clause is, the postman wanted to deliver. Okay, it is standing on its own. It is independent. So that is why this part of the sentence is the main clause. The second part, what he thought was a gift, is the subordinate clause. So children, now what type or what kind of a clause is this? So this is a object of an infinitive. So if you can see in the main clause, the postman wanted to deliver. So to deliver, what is it? It is an infinitive. So infinitive is to deliver. What he thought was a gift is the object of the infinitive. So this becomes the noun clause, that is subordinate noun clause. And how did you find it? You found it by reading and understanding the sentence. You saw that in the main clause, to deliver is present, that is the infinitive. And in the subordinate clause, you saw there is the object of the infinitive. So that is why this becomes the noun clause. Next sentence, Mumbai is a metropolitan city which is very densely populated. So let's divide the sentence into main and subordinate clause. So the main clause is, Mumbai is a metropolitan city. And the subordinate clause is the other part of the sentence, that is, which is densely populated. So children, This is an adjective clause. Why? Because Mumbai is being described and the subordinating conjunction used is which is densely populated or which is very densely populated. Next sentence. Read the passage carefully so that you understand it. So let's divide the sentence. The main clause is read the passage carefully. So even if you read this much of the part of sentence, it means or it stands on its own. The next part, that is so that you understand it, is the subordinate clause. So now which type of subordinate clause is it? Is it a noun clause, adjective clause, or an adverb clause? So children, it is an adverb clause. Why? Because it is telling you the purpose. Okay? Read the passage carefully. Why? What is the purpose of reading it? So that you can understand it. So, this is the adverb clause of purpose. Okay, children? We have now completed with the explanation. Thank you for listening, children. Take care.